Hey guys, Chewy the Brick here. So we're back with part 2 of the Dana 60 swap. Obviously you can see on frame the Dana 60 is in the truck currently. It is not bolted or torqued in at all. It is just free floating on the U-bolts on the leaf springs right now. I got the help from my parents to get this thing into the truck because trying to manhandle this thing in by myself just was not going to happen. So what we ended up doing was having the axle on a furniture dolly, and we rolled it in underneath the leaf springs, jacked up the passenger side first and got the U-bolts in onto the U-bolt bracket on the axle itself, and then we lifted up the driver's side on the hub assembly, put that lower U-bolt bracket onto the axle, and got some U-bolts to just let it free hang on there. So getting the Dana 60 in is at the discretion of you guys, whatever's easiest for you, whether you have a lift at your disposal or you're going to put it on jack stands or whatever the case may be for you. Figure out a way to get it in, and then we're going to go over all the torque specs and get everything hooked up on the truck right now. Okay guys, welcome back. So what I ended up doing off camera is grabbing my impact gun, and what I ended up doing was taking these U-bolts here, going underneath on the bottom of these nuts, which are 13/16, and tightening up both sides, driver and passenger side of the axle to snug up the spring perch hole onto, basically there's a nipple on the bottom of these leaf springs to line them up. So I snugged these, and now what I'm going to do is, according to the book, I am going to torque these down to 120 foot-pounds each, and then I'm going to also torque down the leaf spring bolts at the same time, which are 21 millimeter, to 150 foot-pounds. So I have a torque wrench here with my 13/16 socket, and I'm going to go ahead and set that to 120 pounds real quick, and I'm going to torque these down. And these, you don't have to, but the way I like to do them is in a star pattern. So I always like starting up in a front corner, going diagonally and working over, and just kind of working my way around evenly. That way it doesn't overstress one bolt or another. There we are, we're set at 120 foot-pounds. So I'm going to start up on this front right, or excuse me, for you guys front right, for me front left. Tighten this guy down here. And I'm not tightening too much at once because the tripod's right there in my way. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down a couple more clicks this way. Feel starting getting some resistance there, so I'm going to go ahead and move diagonally to this back corner, which is just off camera for you guys. Get that on there. Tighten that up a whole bunch. Then I'm going to go directly left of that one. Tighten this one up a whole bunch. And it will take time to get these down to torque, because you're trying to evenly distribute that pressure. Alright, I'm going to move back up to this front left now. And that I can feel already starting to get significantly tighter now on me, which is exactly what I want it to do. Okay, I'm going to move back to the left one now. And like I said, I just do it this way. It's just I'm nitpicky. You don't have to do it this way, you can do it any way you want, but at least torque these down to spec, because this is your suspension components, which are kind of critical to not dying. Okay, gonna move over again. Diagonal up. So as you can see, you guys kind of understand I'm going in a star pattern basically with these until they're torqued. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to torque up both sides off camera, and then I'm going to bring you guys back in for torquing down these leaf spring bolts. So I will get you back when that's all taken care of. Alright, welcome back guys. So I went ahead and got those U-bolt brackets, or those U-bolts torqued down. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and torque down all 4 of these new, retorque these leaf spring bolts, because I put 2 brand new leaf springs in the truck. The book notates 150 foot-pounds. I have my torque wrench set 165 to 170. I'd rather be a little safe than sorry, but I went through and installed these earlier with the impact, so I'm pretty sure they're going to exceed that torque rating already. So I'll just go ahead and go through and make sure. So I'll start with this guy up in the front. Okay, so that front one is most definitely torqued. So these are 21 millimeter heads and 21 millimeter nuts on either side. So if you're replacing your leaf springs, like I said, the book notates somewhere between 150 to 175 foot-pounds. I like to split the difference as much as possible. So I'm going to go through and retorque all 4 corners of this, and then I will bring you guys back for us to install in the track bar. Alright guys, so now with my leaf springs retorqued onto their shackles on the frame, what I'm going to do is install my track bar bracket to the cross member. So I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe for the Broncos to the F Super Duties on the cross members, they're all the same. So there's 3 holes already in them from the factory, and you can see them on frame. Hole number 1, hole number 2, hole number 3 over there. Those 3 holes are already pre-drilled into almost all these cross members, so they could accept these track bar brackets, but most of these trucks weren't equipped with them unless they had a Dana 60 in them. So what I'm going to do is install the track bar now. I bought all new grade 8 hardware for it, so I'm going to go ahead and install those, and then I'm going to just torque everything down with the impact. The hardware on these from the factory is metric. I went with a standard conversion, so I went with just basic grade 8 half-inch hardware. We'll go ahead and set that in place. Maybe you may have to tweak this as need be to fit, but we will get this in. Let me get back to you guys on this. I think I am having a fitment issue, so let me get back to you on this. Okay guys, so after doing some checking on that track bar, I did have some alignment issues. So what I'm probably going to end up having to do, because it's only off by about a 1/4 inch, is I'm going to run a ratchet strap over to that leaf spring and run it up onto the frame on this side, and just strap it over just far enough to get that bolt in, and then that'll be taken care of. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is go ahead and reconnect the drive shaft to the differential yoke here on the back. So my design is these kind of C-shaped bolts, and they slide into the yoke like so on both sides. And what you're going to end up needing is a 1/2 inch wrench to put these back in. May need to put the transfer case in neutral to get that to roll for me to get it in, but in the meantime I'm going to go ahead and take my 2 1/2 inch nuts here, and these, I couldn't really find anything in the book for torque spec, but I usually don't really torque these down per se. I just kind of snug them with this wrench. Usually snug is good enough, and I'm sure snug is probably right around 20 to 30 foot-pounds. I'm going to go ahead and just get these guys on, put the wrench on them, and just snug them down. And then, like I said, I'll put the transfer case in neutral, that way I can spin this, get access to that other side. Same thing, just kind of off one side to the other. I will say that is probably tight enough for that side. So I'm going to go ahead and put this other side on off camera. So I'll get back to you guys when I got that taken care of. Alright guys, so after a little bit of finagling, what I was able to do to get the track bar in was I loaded up the suspension with 2 jacks. I put a jack on either side, lifted it up evenly, and was able to get just enough of a pull towards me, towards the driver's side, along with some ratchet straps to give it an extra pull towards me to get that hole to line up just enough to get the bolt in. So I'm going to go ahead and crawl underneath and snug those up, and then the track bar will be in and completed, and we will go from there. And like I said, same thing with the track bar bracket. I bought brand new grade 8 hardware. Now with the track bar snug up, that pretty much concludes most of the suspension work for what I'm going to be doing right now. If anything else comes up on work, I'll bring you guys back for that. But at the moment that I know of, that should be everything for getting this Dana 60 installed at this point. Alright guys, so one of the last things I'm going to install for the evening is I'm going to put my shocks back in. I'm just going to put my, I got some aftermarket Bilsteins that I had installed previously, about a year or so ago. So the bottom bolt is 22mm head, 18mm bolt. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of wiggle that guy in and just get it in place for the time being. And since I have it out here, what I'm going to go ahead and do is grab the 18mm headed bolt for the top and the 18mm nut. Just quite out of frame. I'm going to move you guys up just a little bit since we got the bottom in now. So I'm going to go ahead and compress this shock in as much as possible. I'm going to lift it up, get that bolt ready for it to pass by. I got that in first try, so that was perfect. So I'm going to grab my impact gun. I'm going to bring you guys back down. Like I said, it's 22mm bolt head and an 18mm nut head. I'm going to go ahead and just tighten these guys down. Same thing, I don't really torque these ones, I just snug them. Just like so. I'm going to swap out to my 18mm socket for up top. Lift you guys back up so you can view that. 18mm wrench, 18mm socket. And that's nice and tight. And just because I know the travel of the shock on this, what I like to do is I will eventually slide the boot up, probably back up to here at some point, and zip tie it back into place. So that is going to conclude the installation of a Dana 60 onto an OBS Ford. I hope some of these tips were helpful or useful to you guys. Like I said, I was unfortunately not able to show the actual getting it installed to the truck. It was just too chaotic and would have been too long of a video to be worthwhile and to keep you guys interested. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it here. So if you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments. If you want to like, comment, subscribe, go ahead. And also check out my Instagram at Chewy the Brick.